have our stories, and your own pain is not disregarded just because you acknowledge the depravity and just the terrible things that are happening to those who are marginalized in our community. If you look at our LGBTQ plus sisters, you see that not only do they experience sexism, they experience homophobia and transphobia. They experience a level of possible violence that even a normal woman who is already scared to walk alone in the dark, they experience that to another degree and another level, and we have to acknowledge that. So when those of us who have stand on our platforms, how do we do it? We shed light to those. We bring them up on the stage with those. We share their stories because no one else is willing to do it. And we as women collectively can bring about change. We often hear from the right, well, what do you define as a woman? And what I say to that is a woman who is confident, powerful, strong, but she knows the fight that stands before her and she doesn't give up. That is a woman. And the thing is that those of us, or those of them who have put a silencer, or so they think, on us, they are scared because they know that if they unleash the power of the woman, we fuck things up. Am I wrong? So today we stand here not just for ourselves. We stand here for the future. And we stand here on the road that was paved before us from our ancestors, from the matriarch that has done so much to fight for us. I am a proud daughter of an immigrant, and my grandmother crossed those borders to bring a future for her children. And she was just the epitome of endurance and perseverance and strength that no one will ever know unless you know what it's like to cross those borders with nothing. And I am that product. And so many of us are that product. And her blood runs through my veins and gives me the courage and the strength to continue this fight and move forward for something that I may not see the end to. But I know that my daughters will, or my granddaughters will, because of what we've done. So I leave you with this. Just know, when it seems like we are gaining 2 steps forward and 10 steps back, we do not give up. Because today, what we look like would not have been allowed 100 years ago. And when they told us that we couldn't vote, we made our voices heard. And then when they told us that we couldn't own a house, open a bank account, work outside of the home, we became the CEOs of companies. So they cannot tell us what we can and cannot do, because we are continuing the fight of those before us. You all are incredible. Keep fighting the fight, and I love you all.
Preach. Good job. Several of us have already said, bodily autonomy is a fundamental right. And the denial of that right is not only unconstitutional, it's even dangerous and can be deadly in some cases, as Allie Phillips knows. She knows because, as a 29-year-old mother, activist, and a former first-time political candidate, Allie sadly learned her 20-week pregnancy was no longer viable, and staying pregnant proposed a significant risk to her health and her life. She had no alternative but to flee the state in order to receive necessary and proper, potentially life-saving care. When she arrived at the hospital, she was told her baby had already died, and Allie was now at risk of going septic. She continues to fight for reproductive freedom for women. Join me in welcoming Allie Phillips.
How many of you came from out of Nashville? Because I came from Clarksville. All right. Well, first, let me just kind of reiterate what Eilena said. This is absolutely incredible. You guys are all freaking beautiful people standing out here today. So thank you for showing up because it matters. It matters more than you know. I usually wing it when I speak in public, but I wrote a script because I wanted to make sure I said the key points I wanted to get across today. So if I glance down, I hope you don't mind. But what an absolute pleasure and honor it is to march and stand before you today as we, the people, gather all across the country for one singular purpose: justice. As she just mentioned, my name is Allie Phillips. I'm 29 years old. I'm a mother to a 7-year-old, and I got one on the way. I am an activist, a former Tennessee State House candidate, and a survivor of Tennessee's extreme abortion ban. Some of you may recognize my story. Some of you, this is the first time you're going to hear it. Two years ago, I walked into my 19-week anatomy scan with a planned for and wanted pregnancy. There were fetal anomalies that raised immediate red flags, and we were referred to a high-risk specialist. 4 days went by until I arrived to that appointment, and February 24th of 2023 was the day that my life changed. My daughter, Miley Rose, was deemed incompatible with life. With so many fetal anomalies, she wouldn't survive in or out of the womb. I was told my health and life would be at risk if I chose to continue my pregnancy, but termination was not an option here in Tennessee because, you see, our GOP passed the trigger ban just 6 months prior with no exceptions, other than to preserve life of the mother. Well, I wasn't sick enough to qualify. So I shared my heartache on TikTok, raised money through a GoFundMe, and fled my home state to obtain the necessary health care I needed to stay alive. I arrived to that New York City clinic only to learn that my daughter was already gone, and I was then at risk of going septic. I underwent an emergency abortion completely alone. That experience gave me the courage to use my voice. Now, I've shared my story all across the country. I testified in front of our Congress. I even made it to the White House. But that wasn't enough. People are still dying. Rapists are choosing the mother of their children, and our government is worried about a fucking app. In case you're disconnected, the Supreme Court ruled yesterday that TikTok will be banned tomorrow, stating that it does not infringe on our First Amendment rights, but silencing over 170 million people sure does feel like something a communist country would do. The same kind of country they're claiming to protect us from. Our government has forgotten that they work for us and not the other way around. Our government has forgotten that there are more of us than there are of them. Our government has forgotten, or maybe they just don't care. They propose bills that attack women, LGBTQ, and people of color. They dehumanize us while collecting paychecks from the people that truly run our country. But we have the power to stop it. I mentioned that we're here for one thing, and that was justice. And my time up here is to focus on reproductive justice. 1 in 4 people with a uterus will have an abortion by the age of 45. That is millions of people. Women are bleeding out in parking lots and miscarrying at home and dying on the surgery table because some men from the country club think they have medical degrees. But I'm here to tell you an abortion saved my life. I'm a mother by choice, for choice. I had to learn the hard way that a positive pregnancy test does not guarantee a healthy newborn baby. The fact that we have no exceptions for rape or incest just proves control. A quote from journalist Roland Martin says, "You cannot be pro-life when you go against prenatal care for mothers. You cannot be pro-life when you vote against programs like Head Start. You cannot say you're pro-life when you don't want to expand Medicaid to keep hospitals from shutting down. You cannot say you're pro-life when you don't have OBGYNs available in your state. You cannot say you're pro-life when black women are dying at a higher rate during childbirth and you do nothing to stop it. You cannot say when you are pro-life when you allow maternal mortality rates and infant mortality rates to be sky high. You cannot say you are pro-life because if you were pro-life, you would care about the child in or out of the womb. You are anti-abortion. If you are pro-life, then be pro-life from the womb to the tomb, not just the womb. Tennessee has some of the highest maternal and infant mortality rates. OBGYNs are leaving our state, turning us into a maternal care desert. Clinics closing, labor and delivery units shutting down. It's a domino effect that is hurting all of us. Access to prenatal care is becoming next to impossible, and pregnant people are paying the ultimate price. It's time we said enough is enough. Women didn't obtain the right to vote because we sat around and waited for it. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't create a movement for civil rights by waiting for someone else to lead it. We must stand up. We must take the first step, and we must use our voices even if they shake. If we sit and stay silent, we are paralyzing our bodies from making change. The energy that you harbor today is the same energy you need to bring to the polls. The supermajority has shown us that they can be bought, but it's our time to show them that we are not for sale. Continue to show up to rallies, show up to your city council and your school board meetings. Volunteer with one of the many organizations that are fighting here in Tennessee. Stay involved and don't lose hope. Vice President Harris said, "Only when it is dark enough you can see the stars." It's easy to drop our heads when we're scared and afraid. But don't forget to look up. The future is right in front of us. Now let's go make it shine, because when we fight, thank you guys, I love you.
Fiery. Before I introduce our next person, for those who may not know, they are worried, our supermajority are worried about abortions. They are pro-life. Well, it's hard to be pro-life or claim to be pro-life, in my opinion, if they're willing to refuse to fund school lunches for kids who are living in poverty. Pro-life doesn't mean just being born. That's pro-birth. Thank you very much. If you're pro-life and you're going to claim to be a person of faith, then put that faith in action. Now I'm going to stop preaching. Gwen Levy is a storyteller, the co-founder of the Rise Above Justice movement, and a musician. Her music has been described as having a double-fisted style that isn't afraid to make light of serious subjects while also drawing attention to the issue. The Nashville Scene says her latest album submits her as an artist to keep an eye on. Her song Barefoot and Pregnant emphasizes the ideal of feminist icon Emma Goldman's paraphrased quote, "A revolution without dancing is not a revolution worth having." Join me in welcoming Gwen Levy as she performs Barefoot and Pregnant. And by all means, please feel free to dance.
How's it going, People's March? I'm Gwen Levy, and my band is called Gwen Levy and the Breakdown, and as Greta said, we have a song called Barefoot and Pregnant. I wrote it when Roe v. Wade was overturned. I'm a sexual assault survivor, both as a child and as an adult, and it was so important to me to speak out about this issue, and what better way to do it than country music, am I right? They can ban me from country radio, but I just think it's too important to not speak up and use your voice. This is the time. So thank you all for being here, and feel free to dance and sing along. Come on! What do we do with the girl next door? She's got no choice like she did before. What do we do with the farmer's daughter?